There's a growing trend in housing called accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. I'm Scott Beatty with Colorado Lending Team. I'm going to tell you about accessory dwelling units today. So what is an accessory unit? An accessory unit is a separate unit that has a kitchen, a living area, bathing, and bathroom facilities. It could be attached to the property, or it could be a separate entire property. It could be above a garage, it could be in a basement. So long as it has a separate entrance and meets all those former requirements, that is considered an accessory dwelling unit. Here are some of the basic requirements. The accessory unit must be smaller than the primary unit. There must be a separate entrance. The kitchen in the unit must have cabinets, a sink, running water, a stove or stove hookup, and refrigeration. There must be a sleeping area. In some cases, it could be a manufactured home depending on the loan that you get. And the biggest requirement for them all is that the property needs to be zoned for an accessory dwelling unit. The good news is most states, counties, and cities and towns are starting to recognize the need, and they are developing, if they haven't already developed, plans and building codes for ADUs. So in most places there is a standing code, and if places don't have them, they're actually creating the code right now. This has become a big trend because housing is much more expensive than it had been. Also, we have many more multi-generational families living together. Here are some examples of ADUs. One of them could be a garage that has an apartment built over the top. A living area and a basement can also count as an ADU, or a small addition on the primary residence. Just remember that each one of these has to have their own separate entrance. You can't enter them through the primary residence. Some of the benefits of an ADU are being able to collect rental income. If you build an ADU and you can have a tenant move in, now you're able to cut the cost of your housing expense by having someone else pay for it. Another benefit is that you could have an elderly parent move not in with you, but next to you, so that you're in close proximity and able to take care of them without actually having to share living space. I have a client right now that's torn between whether she needs to sell her house, pick up her family, and move to a brand new house, or do an ADU on her property. The reason this is such a big deal is she has a disabled son and she has an elderly mom living with her. So trying to pack all that up and move all that is going to be a lot of stress. So an ADU makes perfect sense for her. Another term for an ADU is a mother-in-law suite. The one thing that's different from most mother-in-law suites is that this has its own separate entrance. Some things to look out for when you're considering an ADU. One of those is the ADU going to over-improve the property, meaning is it going to make your property so much more expensive that when it comes time to sell, you won't be able to recoup the cost of the additional unit. The other is, do you have enough property to accommodate an additional unit? Let me give you an example. I had a client reach out to see about putting an additional unit on their land. I reached out to a builder friend of mine, and he told me some of the issues that he runs into when looking to do an ADU. In addition to zoning, you also have to see what the permitting allows when the well permit and the septic permit were pulled. A lot of times those are already limited by the existing structure. So in some cases, adding an ADU might require additional well and additional septic. So some ADUs are pretty straight cut, and others may need a lot more work, or at least a lot more research to see if you can do it. So if you think an ADU is for you, we'd love to help you finance that. One of the ways you can help us is by having an understanding of what kind of ADU you want, how big it's going to be, what the cost is going to be, and will it fit on your existing property. With those details, we'll be able to give you a much better idea of what you can and can't qualify for when trying to add an ADU to your existing home. So feel free to reach out. Our phone number is 303-477-3889. You can call or text that number, or check us out on the internet, coloradolendingteam.com.